So, do you like board games? If you're listening to this podcast, there's a pretty good chance that you do. But are there any dangers to board gaming? I don't just mean that orange Cheetos dust on our games when somebody brings snacks. I mean dangers to our own hearts and souls, or the hearts and souls of others. It's the 7 deadly sins of board gaming. On this episode of Board Game Faith, the bi-weekly show exploring the intersection of religion, spirituality, and board games. Welcome, everybody, to Board Game Faith. My name is Daniel Hilty.
And my name is Kevin Taylor.
And it is so good to have you with us today. Thank you for tuning into this little podcast. And Kevin, it is great to see you. How are you doing?
I'm pretty peachy, thanks. Yeah. Pretty darn good.
Good. I'm glad. It sounds like things are going well in your world. And
yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah. How about you? How are you?
Yeah, we're doing well too. Thank you. In our corner of the world, it's starting to get cooler, and that's really nice. Like the cooler breezes, it's easier to mow the yard and walk the dogs and things like that. So yeah. No, things are going well here, and I hope. Are you getting cooler weather in North Carolina?
Yeah, it has dropped some, and some of the leaves are starting to change.
Nice.
Just a little bit. I'm seeing a sprinkling of it, but it's running in the 80s here, which I think Celsius might be 4 million.
I think it is. I think it's 4
something.
million Celsius.
Kelvin
and
Celsius. Yeah.
I think it's 7.2 times 10 to the 23rd Kelvin. Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, it's
I was watching a video on YouTube about car detailing, as one does with YouTube videos, random videos, which is so great about YouTube and Wikipedia, right? You can just sort of wander through the idea verse, really.
Go down the rabbit hole,
Yeah, and it can be really fun if you've got the time. So this Canadian guy was talking about car detailing, and he was talking in ounces, and I was so confused. So confused. I thought they were metric all the way.
I did too.
They too, like America, were cowards. Yeah.
I know we have a lot of Canadian listeners. Maybe our Canadian listeners can help explain that to us. You can email us.
His name is Pan. Pan the organizer. Is not the best dude to talk about car detailing? Professional car detailer. Pan the organizer.
Pan
like
the organizer.
God Pan.
That's a fantastic name and title.
Yeah, and he plays some flutes at the end. I think.
Does he really?
No.
No. I love it.
But he was talking ounces. I don't know. Either he's in a little pocket of the imperial system in Canada, or he's got a lot of American listeners. But I can't imagine he's bothering to convert it.
Yeah.
It would be a pain.
So what dealing with ounces is... How is that connected to car detailing? Like, how is weight connected to car detailing?
It's sad that I watched it and I don't remember.
That's okay. We
might have been mixing the cleaning or something. Is that right?
Yeah.
It might have
like
been
a solution.
The ounces. Yeah. Because the
yeah.
professional guys, everything is concentrated and you have to water it down, which is weird and kind of annoying, but I guess it's cheaper.
Yeah.
But you have to mix it like a 10-to-1 ratio with water.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Long-term listeners of this podcast will know there are some recurring themes we like to return to often. Of course, board games and spirituality, but also clap-on technology and metric versus imperial systems. And you know what occurred to me the other day?
What's that?
Metric. We talked about metric, even though we don't use it in the United States. It's so logical, right? Because it's base 10, and everything makes sense in base 10. But like, there's no like base 10 equivalent for like telling time. Why shouldn't be like a metric system for telling time? Like where like a day is divided into like 10 hours, and then like the 10 hours are divided into like 100 minutes, and like You know what I mean? Like each minute is divided, each 100 minutes we divide into 100 seconds. And why is there no base 10 metric system for telling time?
I bet there's a reason.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's fine.
I don't know. Why do we have hours and 60? It is an awkward number.
Yeah.
It is strange.
Maybe one of our listeners knows. Let us know. Anyway, none of that.
One thing I will say, so that we can just continue to randomly talk about this. The imperial system, and it's so weird to say imperial because all I can think of is Star Wars, and what we mean is like Queen Victoria Empire, which is
right. Yeah,
same thing.
Yeah.
Although it would be cool to see Queen Victoria not Queen Elizabeth. Wait, which one? No, it is Victoria. Yeah.
Okay.
Queen Victoria, Victorian period. I assume it comes from that.
I don't know when
the
it
British
started.
Empire, imperial. Yeah. I assume it's that imperial. So Queen Victoria and a Darth Vader mask would be pretty fun. But the one thing on the imperial measurement, it's all based on the human scale. So an inch is basically from the end of your finger to your first knuckle. Oh. And a yard is roughly your hand to your shoulder. Maybe getting that wrong, but it's roughly based on an average normal average male body.
An arm length. Speaking. Oh, okay. Interesting.
Somehow, like they're all, and the foot is basically the length of your foot. So the genius of that is if you're of normal size, whatever, okay, I mean, it's right, that's not fair, but that's how it is. Like, if your feet are roughly average, you could walk and count, like, how many feet wide your yard is. Or an area is. You can't do that with metric. You can't use your body. And you also don't have a sense of your body of, like, okay, that's about an inch, because I can hold my finger up. Yeah. But the one thing going for some of the imperial things is it's rooted in human thinking and grasping, and like Fahrenheit has a lot more gradations. Like 82 to 86 feels very different, but I think Celsius doesn't have as many gradations.
Interesting.
So like 17 to 18 Celsius is a big jump in terms of how it feels, but the temperature doesn't reflect that. So
I like
one
that.
argument for imperial. Like it kind of makes a certain logical sense, but as you're saying, you can't do the conversions very easily.
Okay.
But whether hours and time and...
Maybe the metric system is based on the body of robots.
Our robot overlords also have time technology.
Like maybe
already sent back.
Yeah, like a decimeter.
So that when they take over, it's easier. Everything's already built for them.
I would like. It's all part of. It's a grand conspiracy for the robots to take over.
But they don't want to spend the money to change everything to their body, so they've already sent into the past the metric system. That is so funny.
We don't understand inches.
I do not have a finger. Ha ha. 1 meter is actually the length of. Remember R2D2's little thing that he could stick out, interface with the computers? That's a meter. Yeah. That's where it comes from.
Meter.
R2D2.
I like it.
Our future overlord.
If I have to have a future overlord, you could do far worse than R2D2.
Oh, she's so cute.
Yeah. Well, speaking of future overlords, sin. seven deadly sins.
Which robots do not sin. Just be real clear when they find this.
They don't. Yeah, that's right.
They're perfect.
If there's an error, it's part of the programming. That's right. So the 7 deadly sins of gaming. The 7 deadly sins of gaming. So I guess maybe to start the conversation, we talked a little bit beforehand. I wonder if it might be helpful to talk about what do we mean by sin, because sin can be a kind of a off-putting subject to some people. Maybe because of religious trauma or just for a variety of reasons. And so, I mean, Kevin, when you think of sin, or especially in the context of today, when we're talking about this, what is your thought on this? What do you have in mind when we use this bandy this word around?
Yeah, sin is like guilt and stuff on the front page of the newspaper type thing. If you're holding a physical newspaper, it's kind of the saucy, exciting things. Things that people forget. And of course, it's been a moving target. It depends on the culture in the eye of the beholder at times. So, I mean, we've all agreed that murder is wrong. I mean, every culture is clearly, or harming a child. But there are other things, questionable. So this country, for example, banned alcohol for a time period in Prohibition. And so, some of these things have changed over time.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, what do you think?
I love that observation that it is kind of a moving target, as much as we might like to think in our particular place in history that it's not. It really it so often is. I think for me, a definition that has been helpful, that has made sense to me, is that sin is kind of the creation of suffering, creating suffering for other people or for oneself. It's kind of adding to the suffering of the world, the net sum of suffering. So I think that's one kind of way I think about it. In the Judeo-Christian traditions, as I understand it, you probably know this better than I do, but the word that we often translate as sin in the Jewish and Christian Bibles is kind of literally like missing the mark, kind of like an archery term. Like you're shooting for a target, but you don't quite hit it, right? So you miss the mark a little bit, and so I find that an appealing idea too. It's not so much the sense of core depravity and hopelessness, but just I kind of missed the mark on that,
right.
Or something like that. So,
right.
I don't know. All just to say, So I just, if you're listening to this and kind of feel a bit put off by the term, please know we're not meaning it in a kind of judgy way.
Yeah, it has to be thought of in a very broad sense, or you can use a different word if that helps you. So if you want to avoid that word, if that word has gotten laden with ideas. And so it is both actions, and I do have some sympathy that there is a certain bentness to the human will that we do tend towards feelings of shame, or we do act out of fight and flight, or we act out of, we're more like, kids are far quicker to take things from each other than they are to share. I mean, I'm sorry, y'all, kids are not, they are not moral paragons if you've ever had a toddler. And so, we are, there's something in us that does lead towards being nonchalantly destructive. And being aware of that tendency and trying to balance that out with being aware of others and being aware of society and being aware of who you are and how your fight and flight and fears can lead you to do dumb things, really.
Yeah,
or judgy things. So it's a deep and mysterious force. Well, let's look at these 7 sins that we have highlighted in board gaming. Now, there are 7 deadly sins in the Christian tradition that came not in the Bible. Many people are surprised to know that's not in the Bible, the 7 deadly sins. It came out of the monks in Africa, as far as we know, developed this list of 7 things to avoid that led to, they were partly battling with their souls and trying to lessen the power of sin. So they named 7 main sins they saw, which were... Can you name them, Daniel? Don't look.
The 7 deadly sins.
Number 1 is Kevin. Number 2 is Kevin. Number 3.
No.
Yes. No, I'm terrible.
No, there's. Okay, I'm not sure. Without looking at sloth.
Sloth.
Greed.
Laziness. Greed. Good.
Gluttony.
So
Lust.
Wanting to consume things. Consumption. Lust.
Yeah.
I'm having to look. Pride.
It would
sometimes
be
thought of as the main sin in the Christian tradition.
The monarch of all sins, the pride. In retrospect, it probably would have been good if we're doing a podcast on this for me to look these up ahead of time. But
they're in our notes. They are in our show
I know,
notes,
but I'm trying not to look. But they are in our notes. But you're right. I'm trying
to. Another one. Think of Scrooge. So it's not the sin of gluttony and consumption, because Scrooge did not consume. What is his sin, Daniel?
Greed,
plain old
avarice, miserliness, humbugginess.
Bah humbugginess, yes.
Yeah.
To have things and not enjoy them. Yeah.
Right. Ooh, that's
To
good.
simply
That's
want
good.
to possess. Like Smog, right? The dragon just slept on all the gold but never used it in The
That is
Hobbit.
good. That is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
How
And
many
the
are we up
last
to?
one? Well, then there's two more.
Okay.
Three,
Double
four.
dipping?
Yeah, dipping.
Like with avocado,
Like
like with guacamole
salsa,
or something like like
picante,
double dipping.
pico de gallo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't believe in
gee.
germs. I'm totally going to double dip as long as
It's a
I'm not
conspiracy.
sick. I don't see
yeah.
them. Never believed in them.
Yeah.
I think it's
yeah.
bad air. Is what
Yeah.
makes you sick, personally. This one involves, like, let's say, defenestration. Which one would involve defenestration?
Violence?
Yeah, violence or even wrath, I think is largely.
Wrath.
Strangely, violence is not one of them. Probably the monks were not. They're probably already pacifist to some degree. So it was more about
interesting.
anger and wrath. I'm guessing. I don't know. There were
That is
warrior
interesting.
monks in the Middle Ages, which is very awesome.
Yeah, and violence is one of the big sins of the Bible that we often gloss over today.
Yeah.
But but yes, that's going down
And
another rabbit
Dante
hole.
puts it in one of his levels of hell, but it's not one of the seven deadly sins, violence.
Okay.
But
And then what's
this wrath?
The seventh one?
People turn green with it, and it's not via photosynthesis.
Envy.
It has four letters. Yes, envy.
Envy.
Why do we say green with envy?
We should look that up. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why. And that's another big one, is wanting what other people have. Coveting, we might also say. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. So I was thinking maybe like borrowing your neighbor's Wi-Fi was on there, but it doesn't sound like that's not one of them.
Yeah. I guess it'd fall under lust.
Okay.
But if you're borrowing and you're then maybe it's okay. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I don't know either. All right, so those are the classic seven deadly sins, right?
Right.
So what is our spin on these with gaming? And there's seven deadly sins of gaming.
Numero uno. The first one, Daniel.
Yeah. What is it, Kevin?
The sin that tempts us is that it's all about winning.
It's all about winning.
Which is kind of ironic because the point of a game is to win, like win conditions, right? But, and it's good to say that the seven deadly sins, none of them, they have elements that are good. Like you should have pride in what you do, right? Pride's not inherently wrong. It's having too much of it, I think, is the problem when it becomes consuming. So,
right.
And the same thing with, say, anger, like wrath. There is a place for anger in your life that's healthy. Like you're mad about environment, or you're mad, you're upset about injustice, for example. And Jesus got angry. He cursed the fig tree. He got frustrated with the disciples. He kind of yelled at a worthless generation and stuff when he got fed up with people.
Turned over tables. Yeah.
Turned over tables. Yeah. So it's not that it's not that these things are completely toxic. It's that at a certain level it becomes toxic. So when the winning is so toxic that, as you put in your note there, it's ontological and not functional.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what that means, Daniel. Can you tell me what that means?
I was hoping
it's true.
I was hoping you would ask.
Good.
Because those are just words I found on the internet that I don't know. So I guess what kind of saying about that when I say that winning becomes the ontological end versus the functional end of a game. So the ontological, deals with ontology. With this is kind of the philosophy of being. Like why do we exist? Why does something exist? Why do we exist? It's this. I kind of use that term loosely, I guess. But when I say, if we see winning as the ontological end of gaming, just what that means is, it's what we exist to do, right? It's like it's our core. It's the primary thing that will give us a sense of worth or value in this game. Is if we win, we have value. If we don't, we're worthless.
Mm-hmm.
And versus a functional end, to seeing winning as a functional end, which is more like, as you said, I have to want to win in order for this game to work.
Right.
But my value as a human being is totally independent of whether I win this game or not. Right.
Right.
And I think, we've talked about different analogies on this show before, but in this podcast before. But this idea of kind of like the framing of a house, like the studs and 2x4s in the walls of a house. You need to have framing and studs and 2x4s for a house to exist, for it to stand up, for it to work. But that's not the point of a house, right? The point of a house isn't the framing. It's or like the engine of a car. You have to have the engine of the car for the car to work, but it's not the point of the car. And it's the same with winning in a game. You have to have as a goal
right.
that you win in order for the game to work, but that's not the point of the game. Yeah. Yeah.
The point of the game is to, I guess, play the game.
Yeah.
Or no, I guess the point of that game itself is to win, but the point of gaming, the life of playing games, is to have probably really good experiences.
Yeah.
Which I love this from the shut up and sit down, how to teach a game. I think it came out, or maybe it's one of the comments. Somebody said, if you teach a game, make sure you lose. And I just love that idea that your goal when you teach the game and give people their first experience is not to trounce them or prove that you can win. You probably could win. You have more experience with the game. Your goal is for them to have a good time. And by throwing it when the first time you play, that's a good thing. Now, should you do it every time? No, you should provide challenges. But letting people have a good experience and not get whomped by a game ninja, that's not fun.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I like that.
So my dad's really good at pool. He would play like billiards. He would play with his non-dominant hand to try to make it more fun because he couldn't help but make certain shots. So trying to give yourself what in golf and other things they refer to as a handicap. So saying I'm going to take some negative points or negative distance to make it more fair. So it's not about winning; it's about an experience.
That reminds me of a couple things. You and I have talked offline about Search for Planet X, a really great logic deduction board game that we're enjoying. One of the things I love about that is that you can set the difficulty level separately for each player in it. It's kind of like you're saying. So if you've played it before and you're teaching it, you can really dial up the difficulty level for yourself,
genius.
but really dial it down if you're playing with a beginner for them. And so it's two separate.
Right.
I love that. That's such a great idea. And the other thing it makes me think of is also offline. I've talked about maybe doing a book club discussion of games agency as art. Book by C.T. Nguyen, who's a philosophy professor out in Utah. And what he says in there, which I love, is this sense that games get us to care about the means more than the ends. Right. And like they train us to care more about the means than the ends. And it's just because exactly what we're talking about, that most of the time in life, we're taught to care more about the ends than the means. We're taught to win, right? And but if that's the attitude we bring to gaming, that the most important thing is to win no matter what the means, it's going to be a horrible game, right? What makes a game is the means to get to the end, right? So you care more about the means than the end, than the actual winning.
I love that. I love it. Yeah. And it sucks to lose a lot. I mean, I don't mind losing, but if you lose every time, that is very frustrating. But then the question is, why are you losing? And that can be an opportunity to realize you're probably not playing the game well. And so what are you doing wrong? So trying to take a rational approach to, okay, I know one of my pitfalls is I like just doing things because they seem cool. Like, I'm going to go over here and take this talisman because that would be awesome. But that may not win me the game.
Yeah.
So if you're always losing, you're probably doing something besides focusing on winning. And if you don't mind losing, that's fine, go for it. But if you want to win, you may have to do a little studying and realize, okay, what steps do I need to take to fulfill the win conditions as quickly as possible?
Yeah.
Right. So it can be an opportunity, but it can be frustrating. And that's also where you can just change the game up or play something silly or leave that game alone. And some games, some people are better at than others. I've also observed that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Some games bring out certain, some people can remember, kind of count cards almost naturally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're going to be good at those types of games. Some people are good at taking risks. They don't mind you may win or lose on one roll, and that person may win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're a risk taker.
Right. Right. Depends on how a person's wired, what their wiring is, and what their gifts are. What their
change the game. If you're losing a lot or you're winning a lot, try a different game. See how that goes.
Yeah.
Trick taking. Different types of games. Dice based, luck based. Yeah. What's the number 2? Second sin.
Number 2. Number 1 was it's all about winning. Number 2 is it's all about owning. It's all about owning, and I'm really bad at this.
I love games, Daniel.
I do too. I think it's this sense of I guess for me when I think about and I all of these sins I'm kind of seeing primarily through the lens of myself, but
it's the only lens you got, bruh.
Right, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. But when if I see my role as somebody who plays games or plays or anything, or really my role in anywhere in life, if I see my role primarily as a consumer, like my job here is to consume things, whether it's a game or whatever, that really robs me of the really good stuff in life. The joy and delight and gratitude for what's right in front of me. What it makes me think of is I may have mentioned before, Thich Nhat Hanh he just passed away. Actually, was a Buddhist monk who had a great respect for Christianity and other faith traditions, and but he talked about a cup of tea, right? Like and so there are a couple approaches to a cup of tea. One, you could have a cup of tea and you could just drink it down, right? And you've got your tea and you move on, right? That's kind of very consumption based, right? Or he said you could breathe and pause and see the universe in the cup of tea, right? You could see the sunlight that traveled 93 million miles to grow these tea leaves, and you could see the rain that has circled the earth for eons endlessly that had watered the tea leaves, and you could see the people's hands who picked it, and then or the machines that picked it, and then the process and the processes that brought it to where you are, and the drying, and just feel immense gratitude for that. And so that's kind of that's the model I have in mind when I think about games. When we see this game, we could just one more thing to consume and move on, or to really delight in and kind of feel gratitude for the wonder of it.
Yeah. To have a different I think that's great. To have a different relationship to things, and it's not just about how many things you have, because you're not going to be able to take them when you die. Like, you can't take anything with you, and you're going to put your things somewhere, and nobody needs to be renting storage space long term. And you don't want your games in there anyway, because they're going to get all moldy and yucky, unless it's climate controlled, which I wonder what those cost. That must be really expensive. Anyway, this is not a cheap hobby, collecting board games. I also have come to realize no hobby is cheap. Fishing, whatever, you name it. Once you go deep into it, car detailing, you start buying all this stuff, you can spend a lot of money based on what that guy was saying in terms of chemicals and bottles and rags and etc. So many things will take you down a rabbit hole. So the question becomes, is it the rabbit hole that works for you and your budget and your time, and is it consuming your life, or is it something that brings you joy? And those are harder questions, and it depends on people and what they want to do. But yeah, it's tricky. There's something in us that just wants to collect. I guess it's our bird DNA, because we evolved, I think, from birds and dinosaurs. I think. Is that right?
I think birds and gerbils.
Shiny things
and
digging. I know I personally love to dig in the backyard.
I do. Give me a sunflower seed, and I'm happy all day. I am happy all day, and a little exercise wheel.
I visited you that time. You said you were going to take a nap, and then you rolled into this little ball, and got in some cedar shavings. I was like, wow, you're out. You were so tired. It's so
I had
cute.
just filled up on sunflower seeds. Yeah, it was.
But yeah, the birds. I mean, we do like to possess things and take them, but the truth is, hey, if someone else has a great game and I can play it with them, why would I buy it? Like, there's something in me that's like, oh, I should buy that too. It's a great game. But no, maybe you don't have to. So I try to think in terms of what games will fit my collection. What kind of games do I really like? What games can I get rid of in some way, either as a gift or some system? One of the local board game stores, I mean, it's 50 minutes away because I'm rural, but they have a neat bit where you can sell games at the store. You can set the price, they take a cut, and you only get the amount in store credit, but it's still pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is nice. I like that.
And I've sold several games, and it does lead you buying other games, but if you're maybe going to buy them anyway, you're freeing up space. There's games you don't want anymore. So it becomes a bit more of an ebb and flow versus a constant collection.
Yeah, yeah.
I would add that just like winning, owning is not bad.
Right,
Buying and delighting in a game that you have that brings you pleasure is great. But buying something that you didn't really want, or you bought on impulse, or because you did it as a type of retail therapy, or buying it out of envy or whatever, or fear of missing out, those are not reasons to buy a game.
Right. No, that's an
But if you
point.
genuinely can afford it, and it's not on credit card credit, I mean, the credit card's okay, but you're not carrying a balance. So you're not going into debt for this, but you can afford it and you really want it. I mean, that's awesome. The burp when you open the box and getting it out. I mean, that's so great.
I know.
But you can't have it every day. You've got to balance out how often you get a new game. But getting a new game is a real thrill.
It is. Yeah. No, I that's a great point. Yeah. I mean, I'd be the biggest hypocrite in the world or one of them, if I said, yeah, don't own games. I've got a fair sized collection, just a couple rooms from where I'm recording this, and so yeah, I mean, it's this sense of, as you said so well, Kevin, just balance and moderation and thinking about why we're doing what we're doing. And we're not saying that's inherently wrong or valid, but but where we seek that balance and that moderation. You're talking about kind of ways of limiting your collection in that local game store. I love that. It reminds me of a couple of systems I've heard from content creators online about how they limit their collections. One of them is you just decide on what number of games you think is sufficient for a collection. And you just have this personal rule that once you set that number, if you buy anything else, you have to sell a game. So you just maintain that number, right? So 1 in, 1 out. And the other one is, I think Jamie Stegmaier talked about this. He looks at his collection, and if he hasn't played something in a year, he sells it, or something like that. Just kind of the sense
really?
of yeah, or maybe it's 2 years, but something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
He says like every year he reviews it and sells it if he hasn't played it in a year.
Interesting.
Anyway,
that's brutal. I don't know if I could go quite that harsh, but I respect it. And if it works for him, it doesn't mean you take that model.
Yeah.
I love Marie Kondo, her tidying up book, and even that show.
Yeah.
And so that idea of, does it spark joy? And if your first thought about something you have is it brings you joy, great, keep it. But if you're like, I don't know, or you feel guilty, or you're afraid, then you probably should get rid of it. If it's not true joy as your first immediate gut response, then it probably is something that you need to find a new home for. And that could mean selling it, or I think I saw on Instagram Ali Karar, which is Karar 2K, Karar number 2K on Instagram, organized there in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia a board game swap meet. So if you can organize, some people have a big swap meet where people can trade games.
Yeah.
And that would be awesome. Like, these are games I don't want. These are some games I want. They're all used. And you can walk around. And I don't know how he did it. It'd be interesting to know how he actually... Was it 1-to-1? I mean, you can't do 1-to-1 because some games have just inherently more value than others.
Yeah.
But it feels good to get rid of games you don't want. And the truth is, you probably can buy it down the road somehow, some way.
Yeah.
It may cost you, but down the road you may have more money. So
that's right. No, that's right.
Probably buy it again or find it somewhere, especially with eBay type online merchandising.
Well, Kevin, what is number 3? What is the third deadly sin of gaming?
The third is it's always about you being right, which is kind of a variation on pride, which is maybe assuming that everyone should play games.
Yeah.
Especially games you like, and that your list is better than others.
Right.
So what you like and your kinds of games really are the best. So that's also kind of ontological, right? That it's somehow your way or the highway.
It is,
not respecting other approaches. It does seem to me that everyone should have some element of play in their lives, but that may not manifest in board games. It could be in sports or, I don't know, being playful about chores or playing with children, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think play is an essential part of being human and is part of God's dream for the human experience for every person on earth. But that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone has to play board games, sit around and play Brass Birmingham. You know, that's
right.
That for some people, play can mean music or art or camping or all sorts of things. I think but you're right that board gaming can feed that tendency. I know I have it myself, and I think we all do, but I certainly know it myself to kind of justify myself and justify my sense of value and self-worth by thinking about humanity in terms of like outsiders and insiders, like excluding some and including others, right? Mm-hmm. And we do that all the time, and I think a lot of the great mystics of various religious traditions often point to that as one of the core sources of sin and brokenness in the world. This illusion we like to foster and nurture, that we're all isolated, we're all separated from each other. I'm not connected to you, you're not connected to me, or I might have these peeps that are connected to me. Everyone who likes Brass Birmingham or whatever, everyone who likes Euro games, or everyone who likes da. And but we really don't have much of a connection to you, right? And that illusion of separateness is ultimately behind so much of the suffering in the world, right? Instead of seeing that we're all connected and all part of each other and really not that different from each other at all.
Right.
I don't know.
At our core, we're not different. We're all human. We do have different interests. We do have different tribes, and that's okay. Like, we can understand that there is the tribe of Ameritrash and the tribe of Euro and the tribe of, white dudes who love sci-fi and sprawling board game. I totally fall for all that stuff. And that's my tribe, and that's okay. But there are other tribes. I have to recognize that there are other types of people or types of gamers that really like different types of things, and that's cool. It's not all about me being right.
Right.
Number 4, what you got, Daniel?
Number 4 is it's all about being in control. It's all about being in control. And I think this is something we see especially in games around cooperative games that but you can see in other ways as well. But the danger of cooperative games, and for our listeners who are unfamiliar, there's some kind of board games called cooperative games where you're trying to beat the game together as a team versus like Pandemic, Mm-hmm. They often say the danger of cooperative games is what they call the alpha player, right? The person who says, okay, now here's what we're going to do this round. You,
right,
Billy,
you're
going to do
dog,
this,
I think,
and you, Jane, you're going to do this, and and really kind of taking away a sense of agency and control from other people in the playing of the game, because we don't want to lose the game, and so for the sake of, again, going back to winning, we feel like we have to be in control. Well, and honestly, it also means that I have the belief that I understand the game better than other people. That it's kind of almost kind of this kind of arrogance. And I mean, sometimes if the other person's just learning, obviously you know it better than they do. But anyway, that sense of controlling the choices of others and not giving them agency.
Yeah. And this reminds me of the first one. Yeah, what kind of it can link up with the first one, which is it's all about winning, and you're the only person who knows how to win. Instead of, okay, the goal is to win, but the real goal is to have a great experience. And that means recognizing the opinions and agency of others. And a lot of games have turns where people get to decide the action. So even co-op. So you may work as a team, but on Daniel's turn, he decides, and you have to respect, Daniel has decided to do this. That is a legitimate move. That's what he is going to do. So you have to respect his choice. Yeah. Now, when my youngest was younger, occasionally he would really just do zany things just for fun. Like he kind of knew he was wrecking the game. He was smart enough to know he was wrecking it. He just wanted to do it to see what would happen. That could be a little frustrating. And I guess there he's not really trying to win. So there's always that problem of someone intentionally, for whatever reason, throwing a monkey wrench in the machine of the game.
Yeah.
But barring that, you have to respect other people's agency, and you have to have the real goal of having a great gaming experience, even though the goal is also to win. And it's not all about you, and it's not always about winning. In fact, that's why I love the pandemic legacy games, because if you lose, you get to try again, or they'll give you something to help you win next time. So you just keep moving forward. And there's a final score, I think, and you say you did, but does anyone remember? I don't remember. I've played all of them, and I don't remember how well we did. I just remember having a really, really awesome time in all of them.
That's a great system and a great philosophy, right? Because it's a very obvious reflection of the point that winning isn't the point, right? Yeah. It's moving forward is the point, and the journey is the point.
Maybe that's a real gift of legacy games, that because it can change the actual game system, it really does make it more of a process and a journey.
That's a nice.
There is a final score, and you can try to beat it. A lot of them, but.
I like that. That's a good point.
Yeah, it does sort of self-adjust on a certain level.
Yeah,
because it's taking into account the prior games you've played.
Yeah,
and adjusting the system. So
well, so that was number 4. It's all about being in control. Kevin, what is the fifth? The fifth.
I play the fifth.
I can't say that word. What is number 5? Number 5.
This is the tyranny of the self, my friend. It's all about you, which we've kind of hinted at in some of the other ones. And you could link this up to the basic concern that sin is related to pride, and it's all about you and what you like and who you are. But your goal of putting games over people, or showing that you're the smartest person in the room, which a pastor friend of mine used to complain about with church committees, that there's just some people on church committees that have to show they're the smartest person in the room. Side note, they usually aren't. Because the smartest person in the room doesn't have to prove anything. Like Warren Buffett doesn't have to show you he's good with stock, right? He has nothing to prove.
Yeah.
But the guy that's desperately trying to prove how good he is with the stock market probably is, right? So it's someone who puts themselves and their agenda over the gaming experience, shows their knowledge, shows their games, wants you to be impressed with their collection. What would you add to that?
No, I agree. That you make it more about yourself than other people. I totally agree. It reminds me of another idea we see across various religions. I'm thinking of Buddhism and Christianity specifically, but I'm sure it shows up in other faith traditions as well. This idea of the dangers of valuing principles over people. And it's true because they both start with the same letter. It's alliterative. It's the ultimate value of truth. But valuing principles over people so often creates suffering, right? And it's this idea that, at the end of the day, what are you going to care about? Are you going to care about, I stay true to my, whatever my ideology is, or I really cared about human beings,
Right.
What's more important, ideology or human beings, and it reminds me of that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are having a kind of discussion about an upcoming episode about board game manuals.
Yeah.
This reminds me of the issue of being a rules lawyer, which I have a tendency to do. I do want to play it right. I want to look it up. It bothers me if I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if all that's a sin. It's just more of a desire to do things correctly. But it would be a sin if I use that principle constantly to make other people unhappy because I'm digging through a rule book. So some people have this idea that once you start the game, you don't ever look at the rule book again.
Yeah, yeah.
I could never do that, but the point is you're honoring other people's time and energy, and you're not just watching them melt as you try to dig through.
Yeah,
It's on page 3. You just read it.
Yeah.
And remember it was in red text, but you can't find it. And that just crushes people. So maybe you get the rules wrong. Well, at least you had a good gaming experience.
Right. That's a great example.
Yeah.
Kristen, my wife, caught me on this the other day. I found myself just doing exactly what you're saying. I was caring more about the rules at a particular point where I should have been caring more about the people around the table in a game.
Yeah,
and
that's tough.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad thing. Like, it is good to have the desire to play it correctly. And if you and I were playing, we would be right. Part of it's who's at the table. Like, we would just be like, oh yeah, we got to look it up. But some other people, Jenny's going to start looking at the butterfly out the window and lose interest. So she and that's fine. Like that's her.
Yeah.
And so if I want her to play, I've got to not, be nose deep into a beat up manual.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's tough.
Well, what is number 6, Kevin? What's the sixth
Number 6
deadly sin?
People. This is a bit of a curveball, maybe.
I like curveballs.
You like curveballs? Some people don't take gaming seriously enough. So a lot of what we said is that we take gaming too seriously. We misplace where gaming belongs in your life.
Right.
But this one is people not taking it seriously enough. And how does that play out, Daniel?
Well, this was an idea that you came up with, and I really think it's genius. Thank you. I wouldn't have thought about it, but it brings to my mind prior discussions we've had on this show about the magic circle, right? Like for a game to work, we all have to have this unspoken agreement that we're going to enter this magic circle for this time period, where the rest of the and what I hear in this deadly sin number 6 is the unspoken refusal to do that, right? The unwillingness to enter the magic circle.
Right.
That it's, yeah. And I've been guilty of this a lot, but it's like, maybe I'm playing the game, but I'm looking at my phone the whole time, right? And then, and I'm not respecting the other players around the table because of that. I'm not respecting the magic circle. I'm not being in the magic circle. Is that kind of what you have in mind when you suggested this?
A little bit. Yeah. It's, and I guess I'm thinking too, as we started the episode, this is really the people listening to this podcast episode are probably gamers, and this is not an issue. We know to not eat Cheetos at the table. I think we would generally respect most people's board game. We're not going to let our toddler lick the cards, etc. So probably most of us get it. So this is the sin that maybe non-gamers would commit. Although we can be guilty of this too. Like you're saying, we can be distracted or maybe not really wanting to play. Part of it too for us is how do we communicate our expectations to non-gamers. So you've got Cousin Louie. You know the guy.
I know Cousin Louie.
Behind Al's Fish Shack out on where the flour mill used to be. Now they moved it, but it's where it used to be. That's where Cousin Louie lives.
I know, right. If you're looking for
so don't go to the new one, the old one.
No,
which is now, right. So that's where Cousin Louie. So Cousin Louie, it's like, yeah, I'll try that. Well, you can tell he's not played modern board games. He's not handled a $120 board game that you've bought and that you love dearly. So how do you communicate that to him to help him avoid
eating a Big Mac
damaging something that's going to upset you, right? I guess that would be an unintentional sin. He's not thinking. And most people would probably pick up like, oh, this looks expensive. But and not that every game's expensive, but let's just say at worst case scenario, it's a very nice prestige game. How do you communicate to them your expectations in terms of not damaging it, but also being serious about trying to play?
Right.
So
that is hard to do.
It's hard. How do you communicate that honestly and kindly? And I know sometimes Jenny was like, yeah, I'll play a game. And I have to ask her, like, do you really mean that? Or are you just like saying that's fine? Because I don't want to get it out and we start playing and then you get tired, right? Or you realize you didn't really want to play. Like, are you serious about this or not?
So part of that.
Sometimes like one of the kids will want to play and she'll play to go along, but she's on her phone. And I'm like, I'd rather you not play. So if you want to play, play. If you don't, we won't play. Or I'll put it up because I'm a grump. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. No, I was just, part of what I hear you saying is, that we respect each other enough to give each other the freedom to say, no, I don't want to play, and then that's, and then that's okay.
Clear communication. Yeah. Do you want to play?
Yeah.
Maybe is not a good answer, right? Like yes or no. If you're in, we're going to do it with as good an attitude as we can have.
And I do struggle with the other point you're bringing up about how to communicate differing senses of value around the game, the physical game, to people who come from different experiences. And how to communicate that without sounding like a jerk.
Right.
Because I have been in games where, and it's not the case that I'm right and they're wrong. It's just different experiences where, someone's experience of games their whole lives has been playing this deck of Uno cards that they've had for 30 years, that's very well tattered and covered with stains and things like that. And that's what it means to play a game. And of course, you can eat a hamburger and chips while you're doing that,
Yeah, you can just buy another $10. You can buy another deck. So
Yeah. And then you bring out this game, as you said, that's like $150 or something to play. And from their experience, it is totally okay to eat hamburgers and chips around games. And how do I say, oh, please not, without sounding like a real, like a jerk.
Right.
Now, I do struggle with that. Yeah.
It is tricky.
Because that's not their experience of games. Yeah.
Right. So I think the thing is you either don't bring that, you have to know your audience so you don't get yourself in that situation, or you kind of do the sort of making fun of yourself.
Self-deprecating.
Self-deprecating. Like, I'm sorry. I really like to keep, this game is, it's hard to find, and I really love this game. So if you don't mind, I mean, you can have the food, just set it somewhere else, and like if we'll eat and then play, I would appreciate it. I'm sorry I'm this way. So that kind of self-deprecating, sort of blame yourself, even though there's nothing wrong with wanting to take care of your stuff.
Yeah.
But you play it off in a certain way. I think that's fair. But it is part of it too. Is just communication, having open communication. This is what I want. I would like to play this immersive, rambling, multi-hour game. I find this relaxing.
Right.
And someone else is like, that sounds horrible. You're like, well, we shouldn't play. Like, we just don't play, and that is fine. I'll find someone that does find this experience relaxing. I would find playing golf horrible. You're in the sun and mosquitoes and dragging this thing around and losing, which strangely is more points. Like, I thought more points meant you were winning. I
think that's right, isn't it?
You think that's right? No, I think golf goes the opposite.
Have I been playing golf wrong?
So just
I thought it was like I thought I had this natural gift for winning, but because I was getting scores in the
you thought you
thousands.
Or the third option is, I've never tried that before. I will try this. I'll follow your lead, and I will bring a good attitude to this game and we will see it through, or this game of golf. And after that, I'll decide whether it's for me or not. But I will attempt to do this with a good attitude.
Yeah, that's a good approach as well.
So there is a possibility of a middle ground of it not being yes or no, but I will try with a good attitude. And knowing your audience, like Jenny's not going to want to play a game late at night because she's sort of like a bird, and that when the sun goes down, she gets tired.
I'm kind of with Jenny on that.
So
I understand.
I shouldn't even bring that up, and that's fine.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's enough. Yeah, a big part of this is just respecting others and yourself enough just to be honest about what they're feeling, what you're feeling, and to not assign value on any of that. It's just it just is what it is, and that is
you're
fine.
Free to communicate what you would like and where you are.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, the ultimo. What you got?
So number 7 is turning play into work.
Ooh.
Turning play into work. This is probably the most nebulous one for me. I feel like there's something there that speaks to a way that I use games and play to kind of generate suffering in myself or others, but I'm not sure I can flesh it out much more than that, though I'll try. But this idea of turning play into work, I think I've shared maybe on our last episode, but and you and I have talked about this too, Kevin. You know that, I mean, I love, obviously, board games, right? I love tabletop games, and that's why we do this podcast, and that's why I've got the collection downstairs, and that's why we do these church groups, and that's why we have friends over and all this stuff. As part of that, though, I feel like there are times when I feel this obligation. I got to keep playing a game, right? Because this is kind of who I am, or a sense of guilt for not doing it. And I'm that's not right. I'm not sure that that's right, because that's it seems to be feeling like turning play into something that's not play anymore.
What triggers
I don't know. Does
the
any
guilt?
of that?
No, it does. It does. Unpack that a little. What triggers the guilt feeling?
I think two things that maybe are at cross purposes and come from different places. One, because I feel like this is an area that I want to explore and I want to develop. This theology of play that you and I have been working on together, and the more I don't do that, the more it kind of defers that dream and that goal, kind of, if that makes sense. But then on the other side, it's I do believe that play, in whatever form it takes, is an essential part of spiritual health and mental health and emotional health. And when I don't do it, I realize that I'm not taking the necessary steps that I need to do for my own spiritual and mental and emotional health. So I think maybe that's kind of a couple of different sources of where that sense of guilt comes from. Does any of that resonate with you?
Not exactly.
Yeah.
But the word guilt resonated because at times I'll think, oh, I shouldn't have all these games. I don't even play some of these anymore. So I feel guilty, which is odd because I have hammers in the basement and I don't use them but a time or two a year, but I don't feel guilty for owning them. So it's kind of funny how we get into, I guess I have more invested in the games. And so I can look now and there's Pandemic Iberia, and it's a great game and I really like it. I haven't played it in 3 years. Part of me is like, oh, this is stupid. I should get out of it. I should quit buying these and quit. This is a stupid hobby type thing. So that gets me into thinking, I think you're right, that gets me into thinking about it as work instead of play.
Yeah.
And maybe it's okay to own these games or get rid of some of them. Or maybe I enjoy owning them just for the pleasure of owning them.
Yeah.
But it should be fun. It can become work when I'm looking over Board Game Geek, or I'm making lists of games I want to get, or I don't know. I've even gotten away from that Board Game Stats app. because
Really?
it made it feel like work to me. And I know you love it, and lots of
I
people
love it.
do.
Yeah.
And so that's great. It not it's not one size fits all, but it made it feel, I don't know, something about the idea of entering the data and looking at the data made it for me feel too workish.
I can see that. Yeah. Like another report you have to fill out, or another form you have to fill out.
Yeah. And the fact is, like, I kind of like it, and it's a little interesting, but I didn't really ever go back, and I'm too lazy to go look at the data, so it wasn't really helping me. I was only logging it for logging it. I wasn't logging it for a larger purpose. But I am envious of the people who can say, well, the game I played the most last year is X. That's cool.
Right.
But I don't really want to do that. Like, I want to pack up the game and probably go to bed. That's just me.
Right. I mean, there's something to be said for, we do these things for fun, and if we're not having fun,
that's it.
Then why not do it? Then don't do it. Right.
Oh my, you're so right. It's so simple, isn't it? It's so simple. Just don't do it. But yeah, I guess we get tormented. It becomes our god almost. Like it can become idolatry. And so we get sucked in. Anything can be a god. And so we get sucked into idolatry and serving board games and getting consumed by them and feeling like you ought to stop by the game store or you should check a price on something. And the shoulds just become overwhelming.
Yeah.
Once you get used to it, there's more to life than games. So the game has to be put up. It's more to life than church. I mean, no one advocates being in a church service for 24/7, 365. It's crazy.
Yeah, we tried that last year. It was a abject failure. It was awful.
There was that one lady that did it, but she actually thought she was in a casino and she was fine. Like she didn't understand it was church.
Yeah, that's right.
So
that's
she was
right.
the only one that actually did it.
Thank goodness we installed that. That casino machine in the back. I don't even know the name of it. What do you call a slots machine?
Yeah, slot machine.
The slots machine in the back. The bishop was like, no, it's not a good idea. But in that case, it panned out. It was good.
It was good because your report looked good. Yeah. I always wonder. It's funny. There's more to life than games, and you've got to realize that and live within your budget and be aware of all the wonderful things in this world and this life beyond games. And I always wonder about the YouTube personalities, the board game reviewers. It's got to be so strange that they got into this out of love of games, but now it's their job. So 40, I don't know how many hours they're spending, but they're spending all this time.
Yeah.
And how do you keep the joy when it's income and numbers and competition and just the grueling challenge of putting out all those videos constantly?
Yeah. Maybe we can have a guest on sometime and talk to them about that.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. That would be great. Listeners, if there's someone that you would like to recommend for that, let us know.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's got to be hard.
Gaming when it's a job. Yeah, that would be a great episode. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah. Well, I think that sounds like a wrap, Kevin.
I think it's a wrap.
You know what else sounds like a wrap? Boom, boom, ba-doom, ba-doom. My name is Daniel, and I'm here to say that
Trap beat.
Kevin is the most awesome every day. Wiggy, wiggy, wiggy.
24/7, 364. I take off Christmas.
That was also a rap. However, it wasn't a great rap. Your rap was great. Mine was subpar.
No, yours was better. I just opened a poll on Instagram, and they all agree.
You're so fast with social media.
I know, I'm really good.
You're too kind. You're too kind.
Yeah, no, this is great. Next episode, Daniel.
Yeah, next episode. We are really excited about getting to welcome a special guest, Liz Davidson, who is in part a content creator online for about board games. She has another job as well, but she's going to be talking about the value of solo gaming, the value of solo gaming, and it's going to be great to have her on the show, and we look forward to talking with her.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
Yeah. But in the meantime, how can folks find us?
They can find us at BoardGameFaith.com and on Instagram, BoardGameFaith. That's the best way.
Yep. And if they want to reach us, you can email us at BoardGameFaith, all one word, at gmail.com, boardgamefaith@gmail.com, or info@boardgamefaith.com. Either one will
or
get to
our
us.
fax number.
Our fax
which
number
is not base 10.
No.
It's base
It's
8.
base 17. Oh,
Yes.
did we change it to base
17. Yeah.
817. That's it.
If you round up from base 8 to 17, it's the same as long as you round.
Yeah.
So we'll put that in the comments below, the fax number in base 8 if you want to faxes.
Yeah, and if you need GPS coordinates for your homing pigeons, let us know, and we can. How do you tell the homing pigeon where to go? I don't know. Okay, they only go home.
They must only go to one place. They must be trained, right?
They only go home. You release them elsewhere. So here's the thing: if you want to communicate with us by homing pigeon, send us your homing pigeon, and we'll train it. So
Buy
it'll learn.
Daniel a homing pigeon,
and we'll train it to come to this place.
Ship it to you,
back to you.
And then
in a very humane way. So it's
Yes.
I mean, we'll take care of the pigeon, and of course, and that's right. It'll only take, I would imagine, 18 months. This whole process.
We should start a business called Humane Carrier Pigeon or Humane Messenger Pigeon Shipping.
That would be great. Humane Messenger Pigeon
It
shipping.
Costs more than the pigeon.
I like it. You know,
there's an app, and you get a little report on how your pigeon's doing on the trip. Well, he ate all his food, and he played
Uber
with
pigeon.
Derby. Yeah, Uber
That's
pigeon.
right.
So you get all this report.
I like it. I like it. It'd be great. You know, I don't know. I know very little about homing pigeons, but I've always thought the topic was fascinating, and I thought I thought it would make a fascinating board game. Like, you know, to
that would be a good
buy
game.
pigeons and to train them, and then to see if it can go across the world to a certain location and things like that.
That is amazing. Well, you could do a mechanic thing where, like, when you move them, at a certain point, they have to go back to a certain space. Like they go home.
Yeah, I like
when you release
that.
them.
Would be great.
So it's like a movement you can't control, and maybe you could trick other people's pigeon. Like I could mess with you by somehow. If I could release your pigeon, he would just go home, and you would have to then like, I gotta go get him back.
A decoy
right?
pigeon. Yeah,
and you get decoy pigeons.
I like it. The chaos pigeon. You could release the chaos pigeon.
Oh, the chaos pigeon.
The pirate pigeons. I like it. I think in honor of this idea, we should bid farewell to our guests as pigeons.
Yeah. Yes. Because I'm off to design a board game.
Cool. Listeners, we really appreciate your spending time with us in the midst of such silliness. It's a joy and a gift, and we're grateful for each of you, and we hope that you have a great day and a great week. And we look forward to talking with you soon.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.